This is a regular scheduled meeting for the Dearborn Public School Board of Education. It's August 24th, 2020, 7 p.m. I think we're very close to 7 p.m. This is a virtual and an in-person board meeting. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Mary Lane is here. Is Roxanne McDonald here?
Here.
Michael Mead?
Here.
Adil Moseb?
Here.
Mary Petchlikoff?
Here.
James Thorpe?
Here.
President Hussein Berry.
Here, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Ms. Hannah Al-Fassi, Fordson student, will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United
States
States
of
of America and to
and to the republic
to
which it stands,
stand one nation
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and
and justice for all.
Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate you. Next item, please.
Superintendent's updates, moment of silence.
So, good evening, everyone. We've done this at every board meeting since the pandemic, and so I think it's just appropriate we do that. We know the country's suffering, many people, and so just a moment of silence to observe those, and our thoughts and prayers are with all the families who are suffering and may have lost a loved one. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item are the agenda items of retirements.
So we have seen some retirements that came in, and again, we want to thank our retirees and congratulate them, and we do wish them all the best. We know that a lot of them are going out on some difficult terms right now with the COVID, but we want to thank them for their years of service in the district. So we have Myra Jones, 18 years of service. Tracy Lake Kennard, 18 years. Sandra Bond, 27 years. Elizabeth Ellis, over 18 years. Sharon Hawk, 27 years of service. Kathy Muth, over 19. I worked with her at Duval for a couple of years. Gada Sala, over 24 years. Sharon Shaw, over 21 years. And Gloria Witt, over 20 years of service. Again, we thank them and congratulate them for their service. If we can give them a round of applause.
We can go on to the next item, please.
Non-agenda items, COVID-19 update.
Okay, Mr. President, I'll just go down the
Just go
list.
through,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'll go right
Appreciate
through
it.
it. So just, we all know, and we've been monitoring the numbers with the situation with the COVID, and we have Nurse Khan, Nurse Candace, and our entire team under our plan is constantly monitoring the situation around and in the local area as we prepare for returning to school, albeit virtually to start. And so we wanted everyone to know that that's very important. And as you see, we're also modeling the proper behavior. And just to remind people that, you know, wearing the masks, I'm allowed to take it off when I'm speaking in the microphone, but you can see we have them on. When we're in the building, we wear the mask, we're social distancing, and, you know, we're doing our part to help, because what we do want is eventually to have in-person instruction. We know that's best for students. But in order to do that, we have to keep the numbers down within the community. So it's very important that everyone plays their part, just as we are. And I also want to mention that we're developing training for staff. So all staff is going to go through COVID-19 training. It'll be an online module they'll go through. And we're also planning training for students for when they actually do return. And that'll include training for students when they go into learning labs. So those are the updates on the COVID. As far as the reopening plan, appreciate the support of the board. And again, thank President Cavalluna for using this college board meeting to get the plan approved and passed. As we mentioned, we had 5.5-hour meeting on August 6th, and we had many public comments. We've taken this very seriously. We've been working very hard. Just to recap, we've had a huge committee that started way back in May and continues to do work, and they're still intact. If needed, we're going to consult with the group, and we appreciate everyone involved there. So this week, we're starting with professional development for the teachers. We start on Thursday and Friday. One of the big things is going to be Schoology that the board approved on August 6th. So we're changing over our entire platform for online learning. We're very excited about that. We also know that there's going to be some learning curves. So we're going to do our best, but people are going to have to be a little patient with us. And that's why we modified the first week of schedule where we have half days when the students start officially on August 31. Want to let parents know that not to get too overwhelmed with it and too worried about things, because we plan it as kind of an orientation phase in over the first couple of weeks. So if you don't have every single thing right away to start on Monday, it's okay, and that's why we're doing the half-day soft start. It was planned deliberately so that we can ease students into it. And the other advantage is, and we appreciate Jane Maz and the union working with us on this, and Dave Higgins, we're allowed to provide more training for staff. So we're have 4 half days of training for them that week as well to help with Schoology, Zoom, and other things that we may need. The learning labs, we're planning to start on September 21. I'm still in conversations with President Mazza, the DFT, to kind of work out some of the details. But under Ms. Farage and our entire team, Ms. Peterson, Mr. Asali, Dr. Chokol, and Shannon Peterson, we've been working very hard at getting that model going. Again, we're going to do a phase-in as well. We don't want to start with big numbers of people coming in. What we want to do is phase in and make people comfortable. We also will have Mr. Asali and Ms. Roselle Dubailey reaching out to students that are in special ed, ELL, or students that may need support that we may recommend. Again, learning labs, though, will be totally optional. So if a parent chooses that they don't want to bring a student into the learning lab, that is okay as well. But we do think it's important that we have some of the in-person schooling for students that really have those needs. And parents can also request it. Now, these will be sessions, so it doesn't mean it'll be a full day. These will be hours, potentially hour, 2-hour type sessions. Virtual learning. So we offer that option for our families. As you're aware, we had close to, I believe, about 5,000 people enroll. We've had some since then unenrolling or asking to be included. So it also creates a huge change in staffing. Thankfully, because of our staff, we've been able to get a lot to voluntarily agree to go into the program. So we do have to turn off by tomorrow. We will no longer be able to accept in-district people that want to choose the virtual learning. We will put you on the waiting list. And the reason we have to do that is because we have to have our staff ready. Now, if someone comes from out of the district, it'll be okay, you can enroll because they're out of the district enrollment. Now, even if you're on the waiting list, we're going to do our best, but the reason we have to kind of put a cutoff date is because we just wouldn't be able to match up with our staffing model as we're moving staff around. So we are still working to hopefully fill that voluntarily with all staff. I spoke to President Barry today and Jane Maz, and we're trying to get that moving. But we may have to make a decision at some point to reassign some staff into the model. So just to be frank with everyone, when you're dealing with that number of students, that is necessary. Now, that would be in the elementary. In the secondary level, we think we have a smooth process with the classes, but at the elementary, we're going to have specific teachers for the virtual learning opportunity. So I just wanted to put that out there and just clarify again for parents, because I know we're hearing it, that if you choose this option, you're saying that you want to be in the virtual learning all year, so you're guaranteed. Now, again, we'll try to work with you if something happens during the year and you change your mind. But having said that, if the district decides, because now under the new legislation, we have to make a decision every month as to what the type of instruction is. So we could make that decision based on the numbers, let's just say, hypothetically in October, or whatever it is that we're having in person. This option gives parents that are not comfortable sending their child in person for any amount of time that comfort in that option. It'll be the same curriculum. It's our teachers. It's using Schoology. It's the Dearborn curriculum in the virtual option. So to jump into the legislation, the government, oh, sorry.
Move on.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I have a
Go ahead.
quick question.
Go ahead.
You mentioned, Dr. Maleko, you mentioned if they were coming from out of district, you would put them in. What do you mean by that? We're not accepting out of district students into the virtual learning.
Well, it would be,
program.
sorry, I may have misspoke then. What I meant is that if a student that is not currently, I should have said it this way, a student that is not currently
Who moved
enrolled
into the district?
in our district, but they live in the district and they can legally attend, because you have some that are in the private schools and the
Okay.
charter schools. So we would still accept them, and we have to by law accept them. But, so when I said
Right,
out of
but they're
district,
not
I
out of
should have said
district.
not enrolled and currently enrolled. I framed that wrong. So thank you for
Okay.
clarifying that.
Trustee Lane?
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Maleko, I assume that at some point on the webpage, there will be a breakout or a schedule for learning labs and people can sign up. Or is there somewhere else they should go?
It's going to be handled at the school level. So the schools will be handling the
Oh,
the
okay.
learning lab signups because it'll be their teachers that are going to be implementing it. So it'll all be based on school sign up. Again, most of it is going to be recommended by teachers and especially in the special education area, English language learning area. But they can also request then with their teacher as well. So what they need to do, and that's why we're not starting it right away, we're phasing it in. If a parent really wanted, was involved, for example, in an elementary school or even high school, contact your teacher, contact your school. Right now, we are still working through that process of trying to finalize all the requirements within the labs, and that's why we're not starting right away. So people will have to be patient because it's not until September 21, so there is some time right now before the learning lab. We'll have another board meeting prior to starting the learning lab where we can get more information. And I might as well just mention it right now. We are going to do a Facebook Live show for the district on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. That I'll be there with David, and we'll have some of our staff, including Mr. Asali from Special Ed and others, to answer questions for parents.
I'm glad you clarified that because, yeah, like most of my colleagues, out of district.
Yeah, sorry, I framed it wrong.
You know, a perfect example was I spoke to somebody over the weekend. Son and daughter is in private school. They live in Dearborn. They called and said, tell me about this virtual academy. So I explained to them to the best of my knowledge. And they said, what's stopping me from registering my students in Dearborn Public Schools and have them attend the school? I said, absolutely nothing. You live in the district, you're paying
Sure.
taxes in the district. And they came in today. They came into student services, registered, brought in the paperwork. So that's what you were referring to.
That's what I meant. I
Yes.
just framed it.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So I appreciate you
Great.
guys all
So
clarifying.
nice catch,
that.
Mary. Trustee Petrikov, nice catch.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please continue then.
I was moving along quickly with my comments, so
Okay.
appreciate that. And again, if a student also moved into the area during the year, then they would be eligible
course,
to
of
attend.
course.
So that's why, I guess to clarify, what we were trying to say is currently enrolled students, we're cutting it off tomorrow because we have to, they're part of our student population, and we just need to plan for that, so.
Of course, thank you.
Okay,
Legislation.
okay, so legislation, yeah, so the legislation was just passed by, there was an agreement, it moved very quickly. Want to thank Representative Hammoud and Senator Santana, who supported a lot of our positions because there was not necessarily agreement out there with it, but bottom line is we do have legislation, it's passed, and so what it does mean is that it gives us flexibility for hours and days for, funding purposes. It also puts certain requirements on attendance, which you can count online learning. So now, when we had this plan, we were going out until, we had the ability to do it until September 30th. And now we have the ability to extend it. But the Board of Education must make a decision. So at every meeting for the rest of the year, we must, by the current law, put on the agenda for an action item what we want to do with our current learning plan. So if, for example, we wanted to make a decision to continue to extend the learning plan into October, by the September board meeting, we'll have to make that decision. If we wanted to make a decision to bring back some kind of hybrid or in-person, we would have to make the decision. We also will have guidance from the Wayne County Health Department, which is in the legislation, so you'll get recommendations when you look at numbers out in the community. Ultimately, it is the district's decision, and so we'll have to monitor the data. I would think that we also want to see how our learning labs and other things go, but we will have to make that decision as soon as September, so it's coming quickly. And that is every 30 days they require it. So we would have to extend that into October, and then at the October meeting, we would have to make a decision into November.
Trustee McDonald?
Oh, I have a question. I'm assuming that the flexibility that they're giving us does, although we have to say which method of learning we're using at each board meeting, if some circumstances were to come beyond a board meeting that we needed to change that, I'm assuming that if flexibility allows us to do that as well.
We can change it. We just have to make a decision every 30 days. So obviously, we could always call another meeting if something happened. But it is action of the
Okay.
board that ultimately makes that decision. Now, the board could, I believe, and I'll have to look into it, but just like, I mean, you could give us options too. You know, right, you know, Plan 2 had a hybrid and an online, so you can look at those kind of situations. But ultimately, the board does have to make that decision based on recommendations that I'd be bringing forward every month. And so we will have to have some people talking about it from our administration as to, you know, it may be the nurses along with our instructional faculty, Ms. Faraj or Ms. Mesa Malibazi.
That's the way I understood it.
Well, my
is-
thought is that if we had decided to go ahead with face-to-face learning, voted at it in a meeting, and say by the end of the month or whatever, before the next meeting were to happen, we had an outbreak or some reason that we needed to pull back on that decision, then what we would need to do is just call an emergency meeting to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's what we would have to do because it is action of the board that has to take place to make that decision.
Of course.
I would think too that obviously
Okay,
if
thank
something
you.
really happened, I have the authority obviously to make a closure or another decision in an absolute emergency. Working, you know, I'd be talking to the board president.
Sure. Trustee Thorpe?
So just
Okay.
to confirm, what we're saying is that we have to vote each month for the following month. Yeah.
Correct. It requires every 30 days, so it's a 30-day window. So I'll have to get the actual time on the schedule, but I believe it is within a 30-day window, there has to be a decision for the next 30 days. So I think technically you'd be, because of the law, you're gonna have to make that decision, you know, the September board meeting to the October board meeting. Because that's the 30-day span.
Okay, so you're thinking it goes from board meeting
Yeah,
to board meeting. but-
Yeah, because I
so-
believe it's every 30 days we have to make a decision, but I'll get clarification on that.
Okay,
As I said,
Let's
this,
go ahead and get a clarification. But what I'm assuming is at the September 14th meeting, we will be, you know, okay, we'll see how things get started and what's going on. We'll look at the
Sure.
information, we'll listen to what the governor's saying, what's, you know, information comes from the county. And at that point, we'll probably extend to the end of October. Now, I understand what trustee McDonald's saying. What if something happens in between? Obviously, the superintendent will make those decisions
but that's where that clarification would come in as well.
100%.
That we're not making a decision today that would go into effect 2 or 3 weeks later when the situation may have easily changed.
Correct, correct.
The second question I had is, even if we don't make any change with our learning plan, we still need to approve it. So the approval could just be, nothing's changing for the next month.
Correct.
sure,
It's just,
Yeah.
we're just reconfirming it.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trustee Moses?
Yeah, I have a question about the enrollment. Now, I believe that we said last Monday was a deadline, but I know we're being
We tried to
very
work with the
flexible with
families,
families, but how are they able to opt in if they're not able to opt in online since the forum closed?
So when we close the form, it's through the school. So we've been putting out there that if they need to get into, they would have to go through their school directly. We've had the principals and secretaries in the buildings.
Okay,
Because then we can explain it to them. We had to close the online system because at some point we had to cut it off. So that's why initially we said, okay, when we opened it on the 17th, when we closed it on the 17th, we did say we would still try to accept enrollment. We were able to accommodate everyone up until tomorrow, so they have to contact their school.
okay, sounds good.
Now, I'm aware of a few families that reached out to the administrators, and that's working fine, you know, nice, smooth. Yeah, close. Okay, if there's nothing else, continue, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, the other thing that I just have to mention, my last under other, I just wanted to mention, and I mentioned this to President Berry, we had our Wayne County meeting on Friday, and I gotta tell you, all the associations we're a part of are trying to work together to really, it's very helpful when you know your colleagues from other districts, so I meet at a lot of the organizations. But on a separate topic, they are monitoring what'll happen for the November election. The Wayne County Enhancement Millage is going to be on the ballot. Now, we were not involved per se in that decision. We didn't take a position as this school board. As after we just went through the bond, we felt like we needed to just kind of be neutral in it right now. But I will say that it does give a benefit to the district by $7 million in our budget. So although the county, had enough support to put it on the ballot, we were not involved in that process. And they were understanding, they understand our situation. It does benefit our budget. And so if we're still good for 2 more years, and the reason why they're putting it on the ballot now is because they're only allowed to put it during every 2 year on the general election. That's the only year the county can put on the ballot. So they needed to do it in advance. So even if it wasn't passed, we would still have a couple more years of the budget. But after that, 2 years down the road, following the election, then we would lose the $7 million each year. So I just wanted, for the public, just to clarify, some of the things that we've put on there, including class size reduction. We've used money for playgrounds. One of the big purchases we used it for was the Dearborn High expansion. So we used that budget rather than, any other loans or other things. So we've been very responsible with it. It's kept our elementary class size down, and so it's helped supplement that. And we've also used it for other support staff during the years. For example, some of our early childhood specialists and some of our social workers from time to time, although we have then moved some of that money around. So it's been a benefit to the district. It will be on the ballot November 3rd, and obviously we can provide more information, but it was a Wayne County Recess decision to do that. Thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is recognition and acknowledgements, commendations. Are there any commendations?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 commendations tonight. Our first commendation goes to 9 of our food service workers who were recently recognized by the state for reaching 25 years of service in preparing healthy and nutritious meals for students. Those being recognized include Beth Isaacs, Christina Jaskolowski, Diane Munich, Jacqueline Stazel, Nina Rizzo, Pam DeTone, Tamara Radakovich, Virginia Pascaris, and Wendy Gatens. We also have commendations to Trustee Roxanne McDonald. The Michigan Association of School Boards recently honored her with a Master Board Member Award for her work in completing board member development courses. So we want to thank Roxanne, Trustee McDonald, for that accomplishment, and appreciate all the hard work.
Yeah,
and
why not? Let's do
dedication.
yeah, why not? Good job, Roxanne.
Thank you, everyone.
Acknowledging donations,
Yeah, and that's David as well.
We have 1 donation this evening, and it's obviously very timely and something that will definitely come in handy. It's a donation of 30,000 disposable masks. It has been offered to the Dearborn Public Schools by Mr. Mike Mushanish and the Detroit Axle team, and those will be used throughout our district as needed. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meetings, executive session, closed negotiation property, July 20th, 2020, board report 20-07, regular P12 meeting, July 20, 2020, board report 20-08, study session, August 6, 2020, board report 20-09. Make any necessary correction and move approval of these minutes.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion moved by trustee Thorpe, supported by trustee Alamozab. Are there any comments or corrections? Hearing none, seeing none. Can we have a roll call, Madam Secretary?
Roxanne.
Trustee McDonald, please.
President. Yeah, I just wanted to add one addition, actually. If it's on the study session minutes, page 6, the second paragraph, I had made a comment about the governor's multi-state consortium, and I talked about, or I asked the question to the nurses, if these methods would be coming to Wayne County, but it doesn't clarify what methods I'm talking about. So I just wanted to add in there that I was talking about point of care testing and pool testing. That just needed some clarification.
Okay, great, thank you.
I remember that also.
Great, thank you. Looking around, there aren't any more. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Lane, yes. McDonald? Mead?
Yes.
Moses?
Yes.
Petlicoff?
Yes,
Thorpe?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes, thank you. Please attach a unanimous roll call vote in the affirmative.